Today on Top Gear Rearview, Reese's Puffs are hilarious.
This car had some interesting accolades. It was in a 2010 commercial for Reese's Puffs. Hello and welcome to Top Gear Rearview. I'm Jeff. That's Brady. Tonight we are looking back at Series 4, Episode 7.
This episode aired on the 11th of July in 2004, so the guys are just back off their 4th of July holiday, and the star in a reasonably priced car is Lionel Richie.
And tonight we are looking at the Mercedes CL65 AMG, Hammond and May cruising around London in minicabs, a Renault Scenic and a Ford C-Max. And our hot lot for the episode is the Hollish Spyker C8. He says Hollish.
It is Hollish. It is of Holland. Therefore, yes. It is Hollish.
I've said Hollish before on accident, and he said it, and I was like, maybe that's real.
It's not real, but it's good.
Maybe that's real.
Lionel Richie is like, I think maybe besides Simon Cowell, and even then, like Lionel Richie's like easily the most famous person they've had on the show, right?
Yeah, internationally, yeah. I mean, like Terry Wogan is up there, but that's really UK, and Lionel Richie's Lionel Richie.
I mean, I guess he
was in charge of the Commanders.
They had they had Captain Picard. He's pretty big, but
they did. Yeah,
he's not as big as Lionel Richie.
I don't know, borderline. Anyway, we will get to him, sir. Let's talk about a twin turbo V12.
Yeah, this thing is a balls to the wall, crazy go nuts.
Most powerful production car in the world.
In the world, it can get all the way up to 155. Yeah. No, this is they kind of mentioned it a little bit in the episode. This is essentially, I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than this, even in the future. The culmination of this horsepower race that the sporting arms of all the German houses are going through. So Audi and Mercedes and BMW have kind of got their own mid-60s muscle car war going on. Mm-hmm. And this really, I mean, it's a twin-turbo 6.3 liter V12?
6.5.
6.5, hence the CL65. 6.5 liter V12 that puts out, and they kept calling it the most powerful production car in the world, but they mean by
torque.
By torque. Puts out 738 foot-pounds of torque, which is nuts. That being said, I really like the metric measurement for it, Jeff.
Yeah.
Because it is exactly 1,000 newton meters of torque.
Nice. That is a good one.
They definitely should have used that one. 1,000 torques is what they would have said.
Oh, that would have been better. I don't know why they don't use newton meters.
Because they're British and they only like to lord the metric system over us Americans when it's convenient to them.
Weirdos.
Like gas, they're saying petrol is 1 pound a liter, but everything's in miles a gallon, and they use foot-pounds of torque. Or pounds-feet of torque, whichever way they want to say it.
Pounds-feet. Yeah, so this was, they said exactly 1,000 newton meters. The crazy thing, I mean, it's 600 horsepower. It's rare that you see that big of a disparity between torque and horsepower, especially in that direction.
In that direction, yeah. Yeah, this thing is got some oomph way down low. It'd be interesting to see where the torque peaks and where the power peaks on this thing. I don't know if I wasn't able to find that.
Yeah, it seemed like the torque had to be semi-low, because the challenge of this was a tug-of-war with some humans, which was an odd challenge, but, all right. And he said he was at peak torque.
I suppose so, yeah.
But,
I mean, it usually is lower. It's probably right when the boost comes on, whatever RPM that is.
I gotta imagine you can spin turbos pretty fast with 12 cylinders. Get them spooled up early.
That's a good point.
Yeah. There's a lot of cylinders. That's like it's a straight 6 per turbo.
Per turbo.
Yeah. One of the things I wrote down, they had he was showing how quickly it is passing people, like grabbing like 2 or 3 cars at a time in like 3 seconds. But man, that camera quality of the passing camera, I was like, what is going on? Cameras were not that bad.
I mean, it's obviously a guy in the car with them. That's how they do the inside shots of. Because he even commented out, he goes for a pass and then he comments and he says, hold the camera steady to the guy. Mm-hmm. But apparently they didn't just want to shine it through the windshield or hold it out the window. It's use the good camera, you doofuses.
Yeah, they took one of those little flip like handheld things and just shoved it out in the rain.
I think one thing we can take from this show as a whole, Jeff, is that it's very good, and it is an embodiment of mid-2000s camera technology.
Indeed.
It's just... It just... I mean, at the time, we wouldn't even thought anything of it. Like, I don't ever remember the camera quality being bad on Top Gear.
Yeah. I guess it was at the time it was just that's what it was. But yeah, it's come by leaps and bounds in the last, probably 5 years, and it's just like, wow, you could do significantly better with a knockoff GoPro for under $50 right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did the tug of war, which is a weird sort of challenge. They set it up, obviously, I think, to let the car lose because they put it right next to the grass. So if he lost any traction, boom, he's in the grass, boom, he loses hard.
Yeah, I mean, some of the views even looked like one tire was on the grass. And so it's like, all right, so all of a sudden now you've got 738 foot-pounds. If it's, I mean, I assume it's limited slip, but at some amount it's going to be torque managing its way to defeat against almost anything. Yeah. And apparently 8 dudes is the way to go.
8 properly trained dudes with good hand grips and nice, proper tug-of-war shoes.
Did you see those? Those were some serious kickers.
Yeah, those had they were meant for clomping and digging into ground.
They looked like they were shaped like shovels on the sides that they leaned, and they were all in sync and stuff. Those dudes practiced once or twice.
Once or twice. They had like a drum leader.
They had like a coach.
Like, boom. Yeah. Those would be weird to walk around in. I wonder, because they're obviously all facing the same direction, they have to be asymmetrical.
I would think so, yeah. They'd be like more wedgy to one side, whatever side they lean.
Yeah. Take a look at the show notes. I'll find some weird shit to put in there.
That's exactly right. So they did the tug of war and they had the tug of coach.
Tug of coach?
Yeah, the tug of war team had a tug of coach team.
All right.
And yeah, Jeremy had said that he had gotten it to peak torque, but as soon as he let the tires loose, which apparently was very easy to do with a car this powerful, and not specialty gigantic Viper wide tires, and even then, it's a lot of torque. Yeah. Way more than a Viper had. Yeah, he immediately, once he lost traction and was spinning the tires, he was done. And the guys just pulled him onto the grass, and then it was like wet grass, and they kind of played it up to say that, and those guys were on wet grass, like it's supposed to be slippery for them with their trowels on their feet. So it wasn't really a challenge.
No, it was kind of a sandbagger challenge, but they did. Let's throw this in now because they did a little bit of a challenge at the end, which was a drag race with some kind of similar cars.
I mean, kind of similar in terms of. I mean, were they even similar in terms of price?
I don't know offhand. I want to say not too far off. I think it was the Aston DB9 and the Bentley Continental GT, both of which I'm going to guess are a slight bit more expensive, but I don't think they're far off. Yeah,
I guess that's true. And they just, I was so excited at the end of this thing. They said, we need to find out how fast this thing actually is. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're going to put it around the track.
Yeah.
Nope, just a drag race.
Half mile too, which is long.
It's odd. Turns out, Jeff, the most powerful production car ever made, beat out other production cars. Something they use later on when they test the Veyron against things. Turns out the fastest production car ever made is faster than other production cars.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And it was not even close.
It was not remotely close. Yeah, the CL65 came across very far ahead of the DB9, which came across very far ahead of the Continental GT. Did they mention which motor was in the Continental? Was it the W12?
I have to assume it was.
I do too.
But they did not.
I mean, I would assume it because the DB9 would then be... Was that a V12? That was, yeah. They'd have 12s across the board. But, yeah. And then, of course, being Top Gear, they all said, well, it doesn't matter. We want the DB9 because we're British as shit.
Well, I want the DB9 too. Out of all those cars, I'd take the DB9 too. But I guess that's a thing to be said about this car. And they even said it in the review, is people who buy cars this powerful and expensive want them to look like they're this powerful and expensive. Not just like a CL.
Yeah, not a CL 500.
Yeah, exactly. Which they could buy for considerably less and is considerably less flashy. And that's kind of the argument we had against the SL our McLaren Mercedes.
Yeah,
Was if you're going to pay 300,000 pounds plus on a car, you don't want it to just look like a CL.
Yeah.
You don't want to just look like a jabroni, jack-off Mercedes. You want it to look like a Pagani Zonda, or you want it to look like a Koenigsegg, or a 718. That's not right. A Porsche Carrera GT.
718 is the new Boxster, I think.
Yeah,
not a bad looking car, but
I wasn't very close on that one. But yeah, so the cars that they put it in the drag race against are two cars that I would easily take over the Mercedes, even if price was a factor, because they are at that realm much nicer looking, much nicer on the inside, and not limited to 155, and can actually do something with the power they've been given.
Yeah.
So I think that's a roundabout way of saying, yeah, it's fast, but why would you buy this? Not even Jeremy wants to buy this. Jeremy.
I know. He has the SL55. I think he's like, I don't need no CL. I got my SL.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah. On to the news, I suppose.
On to the news. I got a few things about the BMW M5. This is the first time they came out with the V10 M5, correct?
It was the only, I believe.
This first and only, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the single generation. They bounced from V8 to V10 back to V8.
Yeah, they 60,000 pounds, 507 horsepower. The guys went back and forth talking about how it didn't look very good, but then they eventually came to there's never been a bad M5, and there has never been a bad M5, and this car will be fantastic to drive as it always is.
Yep.
So they all kind of came up to the same conclusion on that one.
Yeah.
They had a few things about, I guess, fuel efficiency in city trains, or fuel efficiency in transportation as a whole.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they said all these things, like a study came out from, I don't remember where, some university of something, and said that city trains use more fuel per passenger than cars. And I just don't think that's true. I just don't believe them, I guess.
I don't know how it's true.
There's no way. I mean, it must be something along the lines of taking the actual ridership of the trains. Like, yes, the train can hold 100 people, and at 100 people, it's way more efficient than a car, but it only is averaging like 33 people. And so, therefore, it's actually slightly less than car for 33 people. I wonder if it's something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, it was the whole thing kind of, it didn't look particularly believable.
And then they said that cars, or was it cars are better than jets, or was it trains are worse than airplanes?
I think it was planes are better than trains.
Okay, so trains are worse than airplanes again?
I think so.
I think it probably comes down to the same thing, because you never have an empty airplane anymore.
Yeah.
That's probably that's the only, because I'm sitting there listening to it. I've watched this twice, and I'm like, there's no way that's right.
I agree.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we'll just assume.
We're just gonna assume. And then Jeremy got on a facial hair tirade again,
as he does. You know, it's interesting. There is a specific article on Wikipedia about energy efficiency in transport.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so they're going by, they have different metrics, but basically to put it in something we'd understand, in the U.S. it looks like we're at about 468 passenger miles per U.S. gallon of fuel, which is obviously like 468 miles per gallon. No cars get that.
Is that on trains?
That's on trains, passenger trains.
That's okay, yeah. And nobody rides trains in the United States.
No, there's one passenger on that train. It's just super efficient. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking like even like the super efficient, like Volkswagen Polo is one they have in this article, and that's probably the top end of diesel, the top end of fuel only. That's at 74 miles per gallon, so that's like an order of magnitude lower. And then you get to some of the hybrids, and even the hybrids are only getting in the 45s. I guess if you want to get like crazy with your plugins and your actual electric cars and stuff, then maybe they get closer. But I just don't know where those numbers would come from.
Yeah, so I feel it's a cherry picking a scientific study that meets your narrative sort of situation.
It must be.
As is the way with all things these days, is this one agrees with me, therefore I think this one is correct.
Yeah. Now, I got another one for you. The 747. You got to guess passenger miles per U.S. gallon.
Passenger miles per U.S. gallon.
Assuming the jet is full to capacity.
I mean, I think those usually hold like 300 or 300.
We learned in the next episode, 386 is what a 747 holds. Yeah.
I mean, still at that point, it's probably like 1 mile per gallon. One passenger mile per gallon? No?
91.
Really?
Yeah. The Concorde's way worse. It's 14.
Okay, I would think that 91 seems still a lot.
It does. I agree. That's efficient. I guess the Concorde's really that's like the efficiency of my van, but
my Land Cruiser is almost as efficient as a Concorde.
Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to throw a link up to this article because this is actually super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they do have a full comparison here. This is U.S. Transportation Energy, and they have them ranked as the BTU per passenger mile, which is weirder, and rail. Commuter rail is at 2,812. Car is at 3,538. So it's pretty obvious there that
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just one way to compare fuels.
Yep. Yeah, but all right, I'll throw this up. We can stop talking nerdery here, but it's the point of all that is their data is bunk.
It's complete garbage.
Yeah. Well, they also said that it costs £5 a year in fuel to have a mustache.
I think they're just they were basing that on the additional weight of facial hair.
But how many miles are you driving? Like 2 million? Because I just don't believe that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. 2 million.
Okay, so you could theoretically then save, probably a couple £100 a year by taking a dump before you go to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know what you don't need? Floor mats.
Yeah. Windows.
Three of your 4 cylinders.
Seats.
Cars. Trains don't care how much your mustache weighs.
It's true.
Let's talk about minicabs.
Yeah, minicabs. This is an interesting one.
It's interesting in the age of Uber
and GPS/phones.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. So let's set the stage a little bit, and then we'll talk about that a little bit more. The guys were testing out these kind of oversized, slightly larger hatchbacks that are coming out. Like the specific ones I talked about were the Ford C-Max, which I know Jeff is familiar with. And then the Renault Scenic, which are just slightly taller, slightly larger versions of the Megane and the Focus, right?
Yes, sir.
So they're
both, very, very similar in size, just a little bit taller. They're both still 5-seaters.
So they don't gain too much length, but they gain a little bit of headroom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they're testing these out and seeing what situation you would need to be in for this to be a worthwhile purchase. Would you buy this for a family, or they're testing, these look like they'd be good for mini cabs because they look like they're easy to get in and out of and maybe have a little more room in the back. So they go get their mini cab
licenses,
badges, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they're on the job for one night.
Yes. In South London. As Brady mentioned, the cars are the Scenic, they're both diesels, and they do mention that apparently you drive around in fifth all the time. I don't. Okay. 1.9 liter in the Renault with 120 horsepower, and a 1.6 in the C-Max with 110. So pretty similar. I think both around 16,500 pounds.
I think the Scenic was 18.5. I think they're both 2,000 pounds more than their associated regular hatchbacks.
Okay, all right. They did go through some features which didn't really seem useful in a minicab. They were talking about the seats folding down and all that. But Did you notice how the seats worked in the back of the C-Max?
Do they each go back and forth individually?
No, that was the Scenic had that. I think that one did too. But what you could do in the C-Max is you could fold the middle seat down and like kind of tumble it out of the way, and then the two outer seats slid back in together, which is, like, as an engineer, super cool mechanism.
They kind of went like diagonally, right? So they both had more room against the sidewall of the car and had a little less
room.
Yeah, and then a little less room in between, but you didn't have a seat there, so you could just move it into that location. Yeah, that was interesting for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder how that works, because
I know. I want to see that mechanism.
Is that the only way they can slide?
I don't know. Does it have dual sliders? Do the sliders pivot? Man, so many questions.
Is it like a railroad switch yard where you just ding, and
then just got a whole bunch of different tracks? You can just meander around the back on your seat.
Yeah,
you know what? Idea.
That's probably what's going on. That's Occam's razor, right? The simplest option is the probably the right one.
Random meandering. Hammond called the C-Max gloomy, but he did like the stereo and the heaters, which he just cranked to 11 apparently.
Yeah, it's a stereotype thing going on. Of like, I mean, I was in New York City last week, and the first cab we got into, it was like slightly raining outside, and it was like 190
85
degrees, and so it's like, oh my god, how are you this cold?
Was it driven by an old Russian lady?
No, but I feel like they would have more cold resistance than a New York cab driver.
Yeah, but you can see the like glint of the Soviet winters in her eye, and she's like, never again.
That's not what I moved to America for.
Keep it tropical.
I don't drive this taxi 16 hours a day to be cold. I could have been cold in Russia.
Oh.
Yeah. So mini cabs.
Yeah, they had some weird sandbagging. Like, again, the first passenger that I think Hammond picked up was 6'5.5" tall.
Mm-hmm. When you're 6'5", don't say the half, dude.
Yeah, come on.
Don't say the half.
You say the half. 99% of people.
You say the half when you're right around 6 feet and then right around 5 feet, or 12. 12 years old.
Yes.
I'm 6'5" 3/4. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I believe it was May got the fencer, or was that Hammond too?
That was May. May's first was a fencer, and he was trying to fit her big, I guess, sword bag,
foils, or foil bag,
and eppies. You can have a saber as well. Let's call it a saber bag.
Okay.
I don't know how you get on an airplane with one of those things.
Post
9/11? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was trying to fit it into the back of the
Scenic, and it was funny. He just opened it. And he's like, "Nope,
ain't fitting in here." Close it. So he made the comment that because of his first fare, that he doesn't really see why you'd pay 2,000 pounds more. He had to jam it up in the front, this bag up in the front seat anyway, which is what you'd have to do with the regular hatchback. And I guess that's kind of the ultimate conclusion of this review. Hammond does make an argument for it's just easy. The doors are a little bigger, so it's easy to get kids in and out of, which I can attest to is really important to me right now. But ultimately, is it worth the extra money? And I think they both said no.
I think they said as is with 5 seats, no. Maybe with 7, but not with 5.
If you could get 7 in it, then it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
But they weren't any longer, so I don't know where you're going to be able to put those. I guess if you're in the C-Max, you can just sawtooth them around and maybe get some forwards and some backwards,
Yeah, you put them in a circle.
Go buy two go buy 2 C-Maxes, pull the seats out of the other one, throw it away, and then you can have like a little tribal circle in the back.
Throw it away at the bins. Wait. Do you face in or do you face out? I think out.
Is it like one of those carnival rides? Where you can just
keep it spinning the whole time. And whoever barfs first has to.
You gotta go in, obviously,
of the other
right?
C-Max. I don't know. See, the out, you could actually you could choose your seat based on legroom because the ones facing the corners would be better.
Yeah, that's true.
This is top level research.
Well, Jeff, I'm 6'4.5", so I need a corner.
True. I'm 6'2". I'm sitting in the middle.
And a quarter.
And then the last fare of the evening was a double fare. They needed both of them.
They had a hen do.
They had a what?
A hen do.
What the hell's a hen do?
It's a bachelorette party in British speak. It's like like a stag night.
Okay.
So it's a hen night for the ladies.
I feel like that's offensive.
It was not in the UK, but they also say maybe it's more a Scottish thing. I'm not sure, but no, I think they say do everywhere.
Okay.
I might walk that back later. So a do is just a party. So you're having a going away do.
All right.
It took me a while to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Hey, you go into Johnny's. You go into Johnny's going away do. Pardon you?
Going away to where?
Do what? What are you guys doing? Oh, we're having a do down at the bar. Oh, well, you said bar, so I'm going to go ahead and accept. But I don't know what this is all about. Yeah, so you have a stag do and you have a hen do. So they got a hen do.
Okay. Weird. Anyway, the first thing I noticed was they were just pulling out of a champagne bottle. I was like, well, wait a tick.
Going for it. Is it,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, is that legal? Can you just drink in a cab in the UK?
In my very, very thorough research of rac.co.uk, it is not illegal for a passenger to drink while being driven in a car. So by default, it is not illegal to have an open container.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you do you, Hindu.
It is illegal to drink alcohol in a car while supervising a learner driver. So you can't be a drunken driver's ed instructor.
No, what they said is you cannot consume alcohol in a car while observing a learner driver.
True. Ooh, that's some fun lawyer talk right there. I'm going to step out for a second and down this.
Could I be drunk
back
before?
On the highway.
I got drunk before, officer.
Yeah, I remained drunk, but...
I was drunk then. I am now. Oh, I have one comment. I think this might be the first time James says the word cock. Mm-hmm. He doesn't say "oh cock." He just says
cock.
Cock.
Yes.
Or maybe he says cack.
Kook.
Nope. Ultimately, the Renault is comfy. The Ford was sporty. Probably not worth it.
No, they did the Renault you could get in the Grand Scenic or Grand Scenic, depending on how French you want to go, and that one did have 7 seats.
Yep, and that's that would then probably make it worth it.
Yep,
it's like the Grand Caravan.
And the Grand Cayman. Wait, that's not a car.
At least 7 people in Grand Cayman.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Mini cabs.
Woo.
Oh, we said we were going to talk about GPS, but we didn't.
Oh yeah, they just had maps, which was apparently A to Z. That's
the London A to Z. Yeah, that's the big map of all of London.
Okay. And then James fell apart and he said, okay, it's the B to Z.
B to Z. Hope no one needs to go to an A street.
Just get out. Get out here. You're on your own.
Yeah. Lionel Richie is big time star.
He definitely is.
It kind of seemed like he was a little, I'll be nice and say unprepared for the interview.
All right.
I feel like he was phoning this one in.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I want to know what the hell Lionel Richie was doing on Top Gear. What do you have going on in your world right now that you need to go promote it on Top Gear and also not actually get to promote it on Top Gear? Are you just a fan, Lionel Richie?
I don't know. I mean, he seemed like a medium car guy, but not like super car guy. Yeah, I think he kind of revamped his career in Europe in that time frame. I'm looking through right now. Since 2004, he's produced a total of 6 top 40 singles in the UK.
Okay.
So later career, maybe he was trying to just jazz it up and, flip the script overseas.
I suppose so. I'm not making enough money in the United States. I'm going to go make more money elsewhere.
Yeah. It seems like it worked.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just because he's like one of the most talented musicians who's ever lived.
It's also possible.
That might be the reason why.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about his cars. They talked about, I guess, 2 to 9 of them, depending how you want to look at it. But the first car he ever had was a Datsun 280Z 2+2, and he still has it, which is pretty cool.
He never sells cars.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. If I had the room, that'd be an awesome thing. I mean, I'd have some just shit boxes in my garage, but
one thing Lionel Richie and I have in common.
You never sell cars.
I have never sold a car in my entire life.
What happened to the Bronco?
I gave that to my uncle because he needed it.
Okay. Giving away does not count.
Yeah, so he had the 280Z, and then the second car he bought was a Mercedes 450. He said SEL. I'm not sure if that's correct.
There was an SEL line around that time frame. Was this the one he bought 7 of?
This is the one he bought 7 of. He went into a Mercedes dealership and said, I'd like to have 7 of these. And the dude was all like, I don't think so. And then he called
I don't know about.
And then he called the bank, and Lionel Richie had the president of like Bank of America's phone number. He's like, here's my banker, CEO of Bank of America. And the dude's like, oh, I didn't know who you were. Apparently you're super rich, so I will very much sell you 7 Mercedes.
What colors would you like, sir?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a very quick interview. That's about all they talked about.
They did have one thing. They were looking through the list, and I thought this was funny. They were talking about he was trying to see who he recognized because it was a bunch of UK celebrities in the earlier series. And they got to Jordan, and Lionel Richie said, "Eddie Jordan, the race car driver," and I was like, "Oh, that's funny," because Eddie Jordan like becomes a big thing in the current Top Gear.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Yeah, but other than that, it was a good, eventful lap, though.
Yeah. Ultimately, he did a 150, which is pretty reasonable right around now. But before he got there, he had a few issues.
Yeah. We got one issue. Maybe, I guess probably 4 if you're talking about lug nuts.
The wheel fell off.
It did. It just went on its own way. It was like...
just straight up fell off. Yeah. I don't understand what went on there. If he sheared did he shear? Do you think he sheared the how many times can I say shear?
Shear.
Bud Light.
I didn't get a good look at it. I couldn't tell. I'm guessing that these cars see abuse. That's probably what happened. Is they had some that were not so happy anymore, and he came around that corner and one or two let go, and then the rest were like, well, going with the crowd here.
Do you think I can hold this on my own? I don't think so. In this economy?
Yeah. It brought around some good jokes. They were talking about the litigation culture in the U.S.
Yeah.
They had previously been talking about the new car, and Lionel Richie chimed in with, well, I guess I am getting a Continental GT.
Yeah, exactly.
Good joke.
Way to go, Lionel. Way to stick with that.
That was about it. 150. That is a very common time at this point, which is really the top. It's kind of the bottom end of like, you know how to drive well enough to get around the track.
Yeah, it's the old Stig's 154. That's the way I see it. When they first had a bunch of people on, it was a 154. Then they got the new Stig in, and now everyone's hitting 150 or lower. So these days, if you're below 150, it's not that great.
Yeah. So good lap. Interesting. Popular guy. Onwards.
Yes.
Hollish time.
Let's talk about the cars of the Netherlands.
I like this car, but I don't know about this car. It's so weird shaped.
It's off-putting a little bit, the front end of it. It's got like... It almost has a DB7 look to it in like the headlight sort of grill area. But the grill's really low to the ground.
It is.
Like,
this car
really low. It slopes down, and then it's got this huge front hood scoop thing going on.
Yeah, the kind of reverse one. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a unique look.
It is very. You know what? It really looks Dutch. I mean, that's all I can say about it.
It's got the track in the rear is so much wider that like you look at the thing and it's like you can see all 4 wheels dead, like looking dead in the front because they stick out so much further. It looks to me like a cat that's like in its full like shack butt shake.
Yeah, I'm coming at
I'm
you.
I'm gonna jump. But yeah, so I mean, I don't actually dislike the looks. I agree, it's got a little bit of DB7, but I think it looks better, and the interior is so pretty.
The interior is very nice. It's all sorts of hand brushed aluminum or maybe even stainless steel and nice knobs and stuff. It's very nice. I don't really get this car because if you took one glance at the interior, like, oh, it's kind of trying to be like a Pagani there, you know, it's out of this world, like good looking.
Yeah.
And almost everywhere, the gear linkage for the shifter,
God, the rod shifter, it's so cool.
Oh, it's so slick. It's all
so
exposed
cool.
and stuff. We should definitely see if we can get a screenshot picture of that in the show notes,
because
that is one of the coolest things I've seen on the inside of a car. But you know, it's like 134,000 pounds, so it's considerably expensive. But it almost it's not. It's not the sportiest thing.
It's just weird. There's so many things about it that are sporty. Like they're all center. Did you see the center wheel locks? It's the single nut in the middle.
Like the F1 style.
Yeah, with the do undo.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. It's got push rod suspension. I mean, it really seems like somebody got about 80% of the way to a proper sports car, and then they just they didn't know vehicle dynamics well enough, and they were like, This is the best we can do.
No, I feel like maybe not that. Here's my take on it. Is I agree with you. Someone got like 80% of the way there, and then realized that this car is gonna be extremely expensive, and they didn't think people were gonna buy some ratty ass interior thing, so they just glitzed it up.
Just threw it all back in.
You know what? Roosh all of the leather, just everything. Just I feel like they started pure. Like, we're gonna make a because sport race car, push rod suspension, center wheel nuts. This thing is going to be a hot damn racer with a 400 horsepower V8 in it from Audi.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh my God, no one's going to buy this because it's 5 times more expensive than a Lotus Elise and about as fast. Okay, well, let's make it look real nice then. And so they put they made it a Spider. They put all sorts of really cool stuff on the inside. Like, I feel like it was a mid development course correction.
I could see that.
That's what I think. I think
it.
They tried to make like a Koenigsegg and then realized that they weren't going to get there. And they need to make it real nice instead.
I mean, I can't think
real
of
luxurious.
I can't think of a good comparison, like a good competitive car of the era that like kind of falls in the same category. Because I would agree, it's gotten with the Pagani and the Koenigsegg, like it's got the awesome clamshells and these really cool technology. It does not have the speed to back it up, but it also doesn't have the price tag.
You know what? It's surprising, or maybe not surprising, that they put this in the same episode as that Mercedes. Because the Mercedes, the CL65 AMG was 145,000 pounds, so roughly similar. And it's kind of the opposite, where it's like mundane ho-hum German body and interior, and then some hot engine, like just way out of this world engine. I feel like both those cars need to merge and then come apart with like 2 different halves of different.
They need to trade.
The way this car looks, it needs to have that big engine, and the way that car looks, it needs to have the worse engine. And take about 50,000 pounds and put it onto the more expensive one, and you're up to like 200,000, and you've got this 738 foot-pounds or 1,000 Newton meter monster in a body that looks like it's out of a spaceship. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Make it so, Brady.
That's exactly
Go
right.
buy one of each and mush. Is Spyker dead?
I
think they're still alive.
think they're still alive.
Yeah. This car had some interesting accolades. It was in a 2010 commercial for Reese's Puffs. It was in Fast and the Furious 6.
Any view of this car that does not show the exposed gear linkage is just a waste of film.
It really is. The hardtop was super weird.
It did not look good.
It did look like an afterthought.
It was an extreme afterthought. And I'm sure it was separate. Like, it doesn't store inside this thing.
No, that thing sits on a cart in your garage.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was watching that thing go on the track. That thing was shooting fireballs, and I am all for a car that shoots fireballs. So.
I'm also all for a car that they test with the Always Sunny in Philadelphia music.
Oh, I don't know the show well enough to confirm, but I'm gonna assume you're right.
Oh, I was definitely right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they did. This is our power lap. So
they did put it round the track. So, as we said, this is the Spider version of the Spyker C8. So it's 134,000 pounds.
Spyker Spider,
which is a lot. It did a lap in the dry of 127.3.
Which is not very fast.
You can get a lot faster for a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at recent ones here to see what we got that's similar.
The Lancer was a second faster.
The Exige was about a half second faster. It's it's a bunch you can do with a less pretty car. You can do a lot better.
Yeah. You're also going to buy, the Evo 8 FQ320 is 1/4 of the cost. So
yeah, you can buy that and an Elise and I don't know,
and an Exige. Yeah. So it did a 127.3, which is middling at best.
Yeah,
bad for this price point. Jeff, what is your desirability score?
Oddly enough, I want to give this a 7.
Oh, you like it?
I do. I don't like love it, but I like it enough that I'm like, I think I want you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I feel like it fell short. This would have been like a 3 for me, but honestly, I'm gonna give it 2 points for the gear stick linkage.
Okay.
I love that. I love that detail. It's fantastic. It's unique. This car is unique.
Very much unique.
It's unique.
Yeah, they had some other interesting things about the interior, like there were no vents for any of the HVAC, which I was like, I want to know how you do that. Like, tell me more about this design, because like that's how I think the Model 3 does that, the Tesla, and it's all like trickery with just bouncing like air off stuff. But I don't know. It's cool. I think it's a cool car.
All right, that makes it it's a 102.17, so just barely above our 100 point threshold, which is okay. Mm-hmm. It puts it 29th, so it is just behind the Audi S4 and just ahead of the Mercedes-Benz SL55 AMG. So yeah, okay, that makes sense.
It's expensive.
It is expensive. Not great, just right in the middle of the road. We got about 60 cars on this list right now, so. Not that great.
Yeah. There's a couple others. I'm looking at other Spykers right now. They have a C12, but it looks like that's just it's a Zagato designed one, and it looks like it's mostly just a concept. It uses that W12 500 horsepower VW motor that they had spoken about. And they have some other ones, but some other concepts, but for the most part, it's this guy.
Yep. And I think they're still making it, right?
I think so. They did, 2000 to present. They did get the horsepower up with that same 4.2 liter V8 to 620.
Nice. There you go. That's better.
That's proper numbers out of that thing. I wonder if they do it again. I don't think they put it around the track again. This is the only time it goes around.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean it's they're super low volume even after they bought Saab.
That's right.
Yeah, that happened, and then they sold it to a Chinese company. They sold it to I think Geely. Or Geely. I think it's Geely. Into the weeds here. So let's wrap this thing up.
Yes. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate you hanging out with us this week. If you liked the episode, head on over to iTunes. Maybe give us a rating and a review if you think we've earned it. And we will grow very well by word of mouth. So if you liked it enough, tell a friend.
Yeah. We have a Facebook page that, we occasionally populate with automotive news. There's been a lot of interesting things recently, especially Ford killing off the majority of its car line. So we've had some good articles. Brady also puts these up on our YouTube channel. So if that's a better method for you to consume this show, they are available typically shortly after the podcast link goes live. Yeah. Shortly, depending on the week. So that about wraps it up for this week. So on that note, we will see you all next week for Series 4, Episode 8.